Are you a fan of pro wrestling, comedy, and combat sports? Then we have the podcast for you because we cover that and much, much more.
Do you like to debate with your friends? Do we have the perfect segment for you? It's the 531, where we take any given subject, break it down to a top 5. From there, we debate it down to 3, and then into that number 1 spot.
If you want to get a hold of us, find us on our social medias. Search Working Fans Podcast on any major social media platform. And if you want to find the podcast, search for us on any major podcast platform, as well as YouTube.
Working Fans Podcast. We put in the work so you don't have to.
All right, everybody, welcome to the Working Fans Podcast. It is the man they call Dave, and today we are interviewing a booker, a trainer, a pro wrestler, a man who's basically done everything in pro wrestling and done it well. Ladies and gentlemen, the hustler, Rip Rogers.
Hey, there's fucking 587 fucking people in my fucking living room. They're applauding, but they're all deaf mutes, so they're doing it in sign language, so they're not making any noise. So I got a standing ovation from all the fucking deaf mutes. Of course, I'll probably get heat for saying something like that. So I'm gonna get heat no matter what. So what the heck, right?
That's how we started out. Well, we won't tell everybody what we were talking about before the podcast, but Rip, it's funny. So I have a lot of people on here, and you know, you interview these guys that are young, and they're like, "Who was your favorite?" And I'm 45 myself, so I'm like, "Who are your favorite wrestlers?" And you know, they're all telling me guys like, you know, the Attitude Era or, you know, even later, like John Cena. But, you know, I'm curious, when the time you broke in, were you a wrestling fan before? And who were the guys that got you in, if so?
Well, of course I was a goddamn fucking wrestler. Now I'm starting to cuss again. Of course I was a wrestling fan. I graduated from Seymour High School in 1972 and said, I'm going to go to college, play football, and I'm going to figure some way out to become a championship wrestler. And that's exactly what I did. Because I didn't know anybody. I didn't marry the boss's daughter. I wasn't no thing of I wasn't a giant or a freak like the Big Show or some Olympian or something like that. I was a guy that just an athlete that from basketball crazy Indiana, and my high school had the largest high school gym in the world. Still does. Seats about 9,000 for high school fucking back. Oh, it's up for that. One slipped out there, but we try not to. But anyway, I taught school 1 year at good old Union City, Indiana. Was a football coach, and I was wrestling on the weekends, and wasn't trained. BS my way in. Got my Carl and Hildegard trunks and boots. I got my boots from Bill Ash's dad. Noel Ash, B-Bar 8 Boot Shop, got the Carl Hildegard stuff from Johnstown, Ohio. And I was off and running. I wasn't even smart to the business.
That's awesome. And then you ended up, if I remember correctly, you worked the territory with the Poffos first, right?
Well, that was one of my work. I started out. I had my first match in West Virginia. Of course, that's the one I wasn't even smart. And the promoter's saying, hey, when you get the pencil, go home. I'm going, when you get the pencil, go home. What the hell is he talking about? And he said, he told me you was going over, and I said, oh, okay. I go, what's that mean? He goes, you a heel or face? And I said, yeah, I didn't know. He just knew I was athletic and I was jacked, and that's all that mattered. He probably didn't know what a good match was anyway. I sure as hell didn't. And I know the fans don't know what a good match is. That's why I love why the fans are getting on everybody. And they ain't got a unless you're in the business. Almost 97% of the guys in the business don't know what a good match is. Get real. We're nothing but a bunch of goofs. It's unbelievable. Hardly anybody can call a match. Hell, I had guys too have matches 2 hours called in the ring, right there. That's how easy it is, and that's how everybody used to be. You come in with somebody, me and you'd wrestle 30 minutes the first night. I never see you. They go over the instructions. They said, you guys going through 30. Okay. I said, where you come in from? He said, oh, I come in from Portland. I said, okay, I'll do some Buddy Rose stuff for you then. I said, I'll tell you what to do. Shut the hell up. If you don't understand it, I'll make it easier. And just sell each other. It's pretty simple.
Wow.
There ain't no lining up your spots. Don't worry about get your shit in. I'm the heel. I'll lead this whole thing. If you can't have a match with me, you ain't worth the shit.
There you go. Wow. So that was it then. It was just basic, everything was called on the fly.
Yep. Uh-huh. Now, if you come in, I say, hey, what do you do well? And I'd say, if it's there in the match, I'll get it in. But I'd say, don't cover me because I'm going to have to kick out of it.
Okay.
See, all these big move ain't a big move. Let's beat you, is it?
Right.
Okay. And the more times you kick out, you kill yourself. You can't finish. Hell, Dick the Bruiser, he never covered you unless it was the finish. That's how smart he was. Nobody kicks out on the Bruiser. That's knowing how to work. Don't give a shit about moves. Moves don't mean anything. You go out there and simulate a fight. Two guys want to fight each other and kick each other's ass is what you want to do. You really don't bust a great, but there's a threat. There's a threat to everything.
But guys, I mean, there were a few guys, right? That I heard Randy Savage like to go over a lot of his stuff, right?
Hey, I learned from Randy Savage.
Yep.
4 years we lived together. When they told me, I never seen him script a match in his life.
Oh, okay.
We rode together every day. Never in my life. When somebody told me he scripted a match with Steamboat, I didn't believe him. And they said, oh, he did. I said, well, he must have changed. Because you got to remember, it was at WrestleMania with Andre and Hogan, the world's most boring thing with all the emotion of a slam, right?
Right.
So the match before them should have been, and I've never seen 1 second of any WrestleMania in my life because I ain't no Mark buying shit. But anyway. And Steamboat was probably the number one babyface I've ever seen as far as selling and being over. You know what I mean? Right there. He knew how to sell. So he probably threw something. This is a once-in-a-lifetime chance thing. And they went out and they did it. So, but I've never done a promo that was scripted. No, give me your bullet points. I'll tell it to you in my character. Mm-hmm. If I'm a booker, I said, these are the points I want you to hit in your character. I am not you. I don't know what's in your mind. Be you. Be your character. But get these 4 points across. And you can't say who, what, where, when, and why on where it's at, etc. Too much. You were doing a commercial.
Now, go ahead. I'm sorry. What was it like working with the Poffos? I just was curious because I heard that territory was pretty wild back in the day.
Well, it was. Let's see. I was there 4 years.
Yep.
I made the first 10 tapes we made in Louisville, March 13th, 1979. Channel 41 studio. David Tung was the producer now, or whatever. Blah. We used Dale Mann's Kentucky license. Then we had 10 tapes in the can. We moved to Lexington because it was the biggest place in Kentucky where we was at. And our first TV was Hazard. And it was like 2.5 hours from Hazard. So then we got TV in Lexington. We got TV in Louisville. We got TV in Evansville. We got TV in Memphis. We got 4 of them in Ohio. We got one in Oak Hill, West Virginia, where I had my first match at. And I went and got that TV for us. We had Johnson City TV. At the time, the guys, Garvin, Roop, Orton, Malenko, they all split up from Ron Fuller, and they were all-star wrestlers. So they come in with us to do TV to cut expenses, and then after a while, they folded. But then we had Roop, Orton, and Garvin come in as business partners. So the business partners was the 3 Poppos, me, George Weingroff, and Orton, Randy Orton's dad, Ronnie Garvin, and Bob Roop. And we usually ran every day of the year except Christmas Eve and New Year's Eve. But a lot of times we'd run 2 shows on Saturday, 2 shows on Sunday, and 2 shows on Friday. I remember 2 times we had actually 3 shows on a Saturday. So I was running towns, being a boss, and I was greening the business.
Yeah.
To come in. So I was in, baby.
So how long now? You're already a business owner and a boss. How long have you been in the business at this point?
Oh, about a year. Not a year. About a year full time. Yeah. Now
Now
I'd worked TV for. I'd worked shows for Dick the Bruiser, The Sheik, Bob Geigel, in St. Joe TV and Kansas City TV. The Wrestling at the Chase. I worked against Flair and Murdoch when I was a greenhorn. I had black hair and a black afro. Wasn't worth a shit. And I reminded Murdoch about it. I said, Murdoch, you potatoed me. I thought you broke my jaw. He says, I remember that. You moved. Now this is how many years later, and Murdoch's just laughing. Well, I said, no, what it was, Dickie, I wasn't even trained. I wasn't worth a shit. I probably jumped up and did something, and you just knocked me in the way you should have. But no, I had a black afro. I was jacked. I was teaching school. You name it. I was living the fucking dream. That week, I got one out there. I was coming home from after that. See, I worked for Dick the Bruiser on a Friday night. Drove all night. Me and this guy, Steve Cooper, who was Randy Savage's manager in ICW. Then we worked we worked Kansas City TV. Then we drove up to St. Joe TV. Then we come back to Indiana. On the way back, we stopped in St. Louis and worked the 2 tapes for Sam Muchnick with Wrestling from the Chase. And on the way back, I said, wait a minute. I made twice as much money as I did teaching school. I got my dick sucked. I got my dick sucked by 3 different bitches. Okay. It don't get any better than that. So I went in and told them I wouldn't be coming back next year.
This is being
I started showing up Monday morning to teach. And then Thursday after school, I go home. I took Fridays off. I take my sick days, my personal days, and then just dock me because I'm out of here.
That's horrendous.
And my brother was a lifer school teacher and coach.
Oh.
And I was the older brother, but I was a little bit eccentric. So what the hell, right?
Yeah. I get it. You're in your 20s. You're going around the world. You got the ladies. It's a little hard to want to go back and teach these kids, I'm guessing.
Yeah. I just think of this. Can you imagine you're on TV nationwide?
Yeah.
You're walking. You're like you're wherever you're at, it's the Pussy Palace. All of a sudden, you're jacked. You're in contest form. You're on nationwide fucking television. You're talking shit, and girls don't have guys talk shit to them. You do nothing but heel on them, and they just throw themselves after you.
Mm.
You're nothing but a heel. Shit, every time I was nice to a bitch, all they did was fucking break your fucking heart and treat you like shit. No, now you got to be now you're on their ass about everything, and then they chase.
You know,
they ain't worth it anyway.
This wasn't even going to be one of my questions, but I'm kind of curious. Were you ever a babyface?
I was a babyface when I started.
Oh, you were? Okay. Yeah.
Yeah, under my real name. I was rotten because wasn't even trained.
Right.
And then, like, can you imagine? I'm teaching at OBW, and I teach guys. I said, well, no, you're not allowed to prearrange bullshit. You get in. You guys are going an hour. Go. And pretty soon that was the norm because everybody paid attention. And if somebody didn't pay attention, I said, oh, you get in the ring, take his place. Go now. Because you're fucking around. I got 70-some guys jobs with WWE. But listen, this weren't the guys they hired. These were the guys that came through OVW, started the beginner's class, come to me, like JTG, like Santino, like Mike Mondo, like Johnny Jeter, like Serena Deeb, and the list goes on and on. Some of them guys had 10-year runs there.
Yeah.
And they were taught to shut the fuck up and listen. Heels, you're the ring general. Babyface, shut up. He knows what you can do. You chain wrestle 1 hour every day without a break, just switching partners. You get heat on every body part every day. You are wrestling machines. When you get a chance to go with the big boys, you're going to find out you're better than them. But you better not say it, but you're better than them. And you can call on the fly, and the so-called stars can't do it. But anyway, I get on a roll and I start going.
No, that's good. I mean, yeah, it sounds like, okay, teach them well, teach them to be able to do everything they can, but then also maybe shut your mouth when you get there too.
Well, I had to a lot of personalities, and some of them I had to do the positive reinforcement, and some was negative reinforcement. But
Mm-hmm.
my job was to push their buttons to make them the best it can be. It has nothing to do with me. It's to get you out of your comfort zone. And I remember Randy Orton. Randy had big love handles,
Mm-hmm.
and he looked at me. He goes, "Look at me now." I said, "That's God, Randy. You look great. Good." He goes, "Well, I thought you was mad at me." I said, "Oh hell no. I was trying to get you mad at me. So it's the old I'll show you, motherfucker." And yeah, now you're showing me, motherfucker. Now you're fucking shredded. Hell yeah. Great. I said, "You got to remember, Randy, I was partners with your daddy." I said, "I worked with your grandpa. I was there when you were born." Oh, yeah.
It must be interesting to see these guys like Randy. I mean, when you see them when they're young and now see them
Oh,
now,
yeah.
yeah.
Uh huh. Yeah,
Now,
he was, well, hell, he's an Orton. What the hell are you supposed to say?
right,
I
right.
remember, I remember, see, me and Randy do the editing in our house. So we're making up a montage so we could highlight about 20 people on the tape. So even if they're not there, you're seeing them the start and at the end of the show, right? I remember Pez did one dive on me the whole time, and we slow-moed it, right? But every
Yeah.
week on TV, there he is, diving in slow motion freeze frame, hitting me with it, right? We have to do it no more. It was always there. There's Randy jumping off the top rope to the floor. You don't have to do it anymore. It's there. I mean, this shit, you know what's so funny? Wrestling is so simple. We've made it hard by
Mm.
trying to fool people. You have certain unwritten rules, which is old school. If you don't break them, you'll be a success. If you half-ass them, that ain't what you're supposed to do. Do it right.
Now, I wanted to ask you about another territory, but before we do that, you mentioned a name that I don't know if everyone's going to know. Pez. You're talking about Pistol Pez Watley. That was
Yeah.
one of your early partners, right? How was teaming up with Pez? Tell everybody a little bit about Pez Watley.
Oh well, Pez was the first black heavyweight. He was a state champion, first black heavyweight state champion in Tennessee, and he was a college wrestler. He started out at Southern University in Baton Rouge. Then he went back home and went to Tennessee Chattanooga. And George Weingroff, Pez was the heavyweight. George Weingroff was like the 185 pounder. I think it's 189 now. They changed it because I'm 68 years old, so I'm going back 50 years. 50 years ago, 50 years next week, I played my first college football game. Yeah, and I was 18. Okay, so but anyway, no, Pez was a powerlifting champion. I was doing bodybuilding, and we was partners. And he won Kentucky State powerlifting championship just on half-ass training. Pez was just a freak. He was just a freak.
Yeah, Pez was. I always thought I remember him from the Mid Atlantic territory with the Crockett's and underrated personality too. I thought he was pretty good.
Oh
To pro.
my God! If you would see him as a baby face and you couldn't imagine him as a heel. But if you saw him as a heel, you could never imagine him as a baby face. That's how good he was.
Yeah.
Now he was a stiff bastard. Oh hell yeah! But hey, we were against Barnett. We were against Jarrett. We were against Fuller. We were against Geigel. You name it. We was against everybody. We was invading everybody's markets. They had the good stations. We had the shitty ones, and all we did was work harder. Randy would gaff in spot shows. They would beat the shit out of each other, and we had we would not let you outwork us. But if you had the strong TV station and you've had wrestling in that area for 15, 20 years, you're naturally the incumbent. But we sure as hell made some noise, put it that way.
One thing, it seems very common when I talk about to a lot of wrestlers from the past too. There was a lot of legitimate tough guys in that locker room.
Well, I tell everybody now. See, I look at wrestlers now, and they look like a bunch of fucking pussies. They're skinny fat. They don't even look like athletes. They should be in ringside. I remember we had I think 104 guys come the first day. We opened up OBW wrestling school, And then Garvin made a guy shit his pants, piss his pants. We thought one guy was going to die. Garvin was sugaring him so much, and that's an old Carney hold that we thought he was going to die. The next week, 4 people showed up. He scared them all. He said,
Wow.
Garvin, and here's Garvin. Garvin said, "Well, fuck them. They should be buying ringside anyway. Fuck them. You can't let these marks in our business." Of course, we all started out as marks, but anyway, what was your original? But anyway, we was talking about when I was in the wrestling business or started and whatever. I said, "This is awesome." I said, "Everybody is a criminal, a would-be criminal, somebody that didn't want to work no real job. Everybody cussed. Now, I didn't smoke, drink, or do anything, well, except excessive masturbation, and and all the wrestlers were just. What I found out is all the bad guys were really the good guys, and the good guys were really the bad guys. But I remember I got knifed in South Africa. I remember Randy got knifed in Eastern Kentucky, and we were just being heels, and you'd have to watch each other's back. People believe that stuff, but hell, we acted like it. We treated it like it was real.
Right.
We kayfabed. We hit each other hard. If you couldn't take it, well, get out. This ain't for pussies. But most of the guys that we all employed were college athletes. Hell, Bob Roop was in the Olympics. You know, and I'm rambling, but the whole thing is most of the wrestlers, I called them like the convicts. They were all killers. They'd fight you for no reason, you know, and that was the way it was. That's like what Randy, whenever we was at a restaurant, he had to have his back to the wall. He's ready for anybody to fight him. And then Randy wanted to fight you to the death, and I'd laugh. I'd say, "Randy, you want to fight for no reason?" I can tell you think I'm short, don't you? I said, "Oh God." Oh, that Randy was Randy, but that intensity got him where it got him there. You know what I mean?
Yeah. Now after the Paphos, it wasn't too long. You were in the Portland territory too. How was the Portland territory?
Oh, Portland was probably the most fun I've ever had in my life. Oh. Now, what it was we made all those tapes, and then we was working for this guy Don Pruitt and Dale Mann in Kentucky and Southern Indiana before we got our own stuff. So I went out there, and Lanny come in. He was Lanny Holiday out for Don Owen in Portland. So Lanny got me booked out there. So I stayed out there about 5 or 6 months. Now Piper was out there, Martel, the Bushwhackers come in, were they the sheep herders?
Right.
A lot of great workers out there, and it was so easy to work out there. And then when Randy said to come home. So after about 6 months, I come back because we started to run full time. Then I took a break and went back out there, and I was with Buddy Rose, and then Ed Wiskowski come back. So all of a sudden we had a loser leave town. Whoever lost the fall would have to leave. And I just come in for 2 weeks. Then I beat Piper the first night in, and people couldn't believe it. And then to make a long story short, I lost. Nobody comes in for 3 weeks, right?
Right.
I come in for 3 weeks, and it looked like he was going to beat Piper, and he ended up beating me, and I was gone. So I was there for like 5 months, then left, and then come back for 3 weeks and worked the loser leave town gimmick. Me, Buddy, and Ed, which was the Rose's Army against the two Luke and Butch, who had turned babyface, and then Piper. So Portland, I never heard one bad word about Don Owens ever.
Yeah, he was known for some of the best paydays. Everyone was on time. Seemed like everybody.
He had. See, he was like a second generation. He promoted for like 60 years. His family. So when he got in there, he had all these armories that he could. You might be paying $500 today, but he was paying. But he'd get them by the week, and they'd pay him like he'd pay like $50, and he would have like the veterans of foreign wars helping out and this and that. So they would get they would they would collect their own donations and stuff. But it's like there was Don and then there was Elton, his brother, Elton Owen. So Don was the baby face and Elton was the heel. So Elton had the broken nose, and Elton, you could work him for money and stuff, and Don would just laugh and shake his head. And then Piper would say, "Now, when Elton pays you, don't smile." So he taught me that when I give Elton a mean look, and he just keeps Elton go, "Well, here's your pay, 50. Well, you had a good attitude, money. Here's the extra 20. Then you took a hell of a bump. That's extra 10. And then you got some color. That's extra 15. And why aren't you smiling?" And then Piper told me the one where he says, now when Elton, he'd have money in stacks. He said, when Elton gives you a stacks of 5 or whatever, he said, drop it, knock it down. So I'd knock it down. Well, Elton would go, come on, Rip. You got to be careful. We got to be protective with your money. So he'd reach down and get it. Then Piper said, you got to grab one stack of $100, like a 20. He had everything stacked. So I had to get one for the boys because I was the new guy in, right? You had to pay your dues.
Oh, that's great.
The next night, Elton going, hey, did I overpay somebody? I was missing 100. Oh my God! So you talk about, Adrian Adonis was out there, Ron Starr was out there, and Stan Stasiak. Oh God, that was just so much fun. We all stayed at the Bomber Hotel in Milwaukee, Oregon, which is a suburb. I bought me a $300 car from across the street, and I drove it 2 trips. The rest of the time, it was always me, Buddy, and the Bushwhackers. Every night they're smoking their dope, blah blah blah, having so much fun. I just shut up and listened. Them guys had so many fucking stories. What a time that was.
So you were the designated driver then for pretty much.
Oh no, I sat in the back. No.
Oh, okay.
Butch was usually driving.
Gotcha.
and then Butch and Luke would switch off. They had the good car for 4 of us to travel comfortably. Me and Buddy'd be in the back, and I'd shit in mason jars. So then I'd be back up. I'd take the lid off, and they'd think I'm fighting. Oh mate! Oh fuck mate! Oh you fight! Oh you shit your pants! Oh fuck!
That's great.
Oh, so everything was a rib.
Yeah. So after the Portland, I believe you spent some time in Mid-Atlantic. How was Mid-Atlantic?
Well, no. After I went there, I went back to ICW. Then when I went to ICW, okay, I'll give you the whole shamil. I went to back to ICW. I left. I called up Ron Fuller. I worked for him for a week and did TVs. Then I worked Bill Watts for 5 months. After I worked Bill Watts for 5 months, I went back for work for Ron Fuller in Southeastern for 11 months. I finished off with a 10-week program against Austin Idol. I come in as the smallest heel there. And then Ron Fuller took over from Robert. He says, man, I'm going to keep you off TV for 6 weeks. I said, oh my God, he's going to fire me. And he says, no. He says, you got more heat than anybody without trying to get it. I said, Ron, they hate my motherfucking ass. He goes, I know. So he kept me off, and he said, oh, I seen what I need to see. He said, we did an angle with Jacques Rougeau. He says, Jacques Rougeau said, Rip's getting fat. He's no longer a junior heavyweight. I said, I am not. Bring them scales out here, and I'll show you. So they had the gimmick scales where I was like 8 pounds over, and they started calling me Fatso. And I was the skinniest guy there, so I'd have my belly sticking out and pull my pants up over my love handles. And instead of later on when I get the fans yelling faggot, they're yelling Fatso, doing nothing, just walking and talking, doing nothing, and everybody's having a good time. But then I went and worked. When I was finishing up, Bob Armstrong had called Ole. Remember when Vince took over TBS?
Yes.
Okay, Ole called me on the phone. He said, Bob, I just talked to Bob Armstrong. And he said, you can handle anything. I said, well, I think I can. He said, well, the Road Warriors are leaving. They want to go to AWA because they want to work at home. I said, okay. He says, I want you to come in here, and I'm going to make you and Ted Oates Hollywood Blondes. I said, well, hell, Jerry Brown Buddy Roberts with the Hollywood Browns. He goes, well, you're the next Hollywood Bonds. And then the next ones after that was Pillman and Austin, right?
Right.
But I went in and just was a short-term thing to switch the belts, whatever, blah, blah, blah. And then I went off into a singles thing. So, and then when Crockett bought in, I was about the first. They give me 6 weeks of loser leave towns. Yeah. Well, I had blonde hair. Flair had blonde hair. Flair hated everybody younger than him. You know, and they'd seen his act. They hadn't seen mine. But anyway, Flair's great. That's all there is to it. So I said, oh, all right. That's sort of a compliment. So I went down and worked for Wahoo for 5 months, 5.5 months. We had a big show, and then Crockett took over TBS, right? So then the next show, well, every match had color. Dusty was called the finishes. All the matches had color except me and Bugsy, because they were giving them chicken. So I gave them steak, and people bid on the steak because they're sick of chicken. So we did a comedy routine, right? The next big show, I wasn't booked on it. So Wahoo said, I said, Chief, I ain't booked in Miami. He goes, well, that ain't me. That was Dusty. I said, that big fat motherfucker, fuck him. I said, I'm quitting. He goes, what? I said, I'm quitting. I said, I'll be gone in 2 hours. He goes, you can't do that. I said, Chief, you walked out. It was, I think, 9 in a row. You told me you did because they did something that you didn't know. He says, well, I'll pay you. Just don't leave. I said, no, I can't. I've had it. Fuck that. So I just packed my shit up and just fucking left like a dumbass, you know, hothead. Stupid shit you do. Sometimes you got to turn the other fucking cheek, right?
Right.
But I didn't. So fuck everybody.
Yeah.
Then I went on to Memphis. Then working for Ron Fuller, I worked against Adrian Street like 182 times out of 186 days or whatever. Which was, I said, once I was done with Adrian, I said, Ron, I'm leaving. He said, what? I said, I can't follow that. You know what I mean? And this is how stupid I was. I was never one guy worried thinking about money. It was never about the money. It was having time to train, having time to eat right, having the time to see different styles, because every territory was different. And you would take something, and a lot of it was before everybody got cable TV. So you're seeing an angle you did in Portland or Vancouver, and you're doing it in for Tampa, you know, or you're doing it different territories. So they ended up, let's see, where are we at? Then I went and I went to Geigels, and he stiffed me on I was there. He stiffed me on a check. So I just left. I went to South Africa. Then I went to South Africa and I worked for Stu for 4 months, went to Baba's in Japan, then went back to Dupre for 4 months and finished up that year. So 88 and 89, I didn't work in the States because in 89, I was in Puerto Rico. There. And
How
92,
was
I did
Puerto Rico?
Do what now?
How was Puerto Rico with the crowds? I heard a lot of violence in the Puerto Rico crowds.
Well, it was after 2 days, you are accustomed to it.
Okay.
But yeah, it was the wildest, you know. They're throwing shit in the fucking ring.
Yeah.
Such is life. But I had the American TV show, so I always talked about the greasy Puerto Ricans.
Mm-hmm.
But when I was there, I guest posed bodybuilding at the Mr. Puerto Rico. So when I got there, I weighed 232. Then when contest day, I was 197. So you go through once in life, right?
Right.
And you just have fun and do what you can. And then Puerto Rico, I loved it. Because it was a different style. I learned to listen to the crowd with the wahs when they would punch you and everything. Mm-hmm. The wah, wah, wah. Now it's time to bump. Now don't get up. Stay down. Now beg. Don't do nothing. Beg. It was a completely different style that worked. And you take it other places and it would work. And everybody else was doing the same old shit. So all you had to do was do old shit, and it was new. But anyway, then I went to England, Austria, Germany, Trinidad, Bahamas, wherever. Then when I was at WCW, I got to I was running developmental towns for Ole. When I was with Geigel, I was booking his towns. When I was with Carlos, I was sitting at home. This was in '89. I took 2 months off, and I was just getting ready to go into Maritimes, because I went into Maritimes. I talked to Rene Dupre today. We was on the phone about an hour. I'm gonna do his podcast again. But let's see, what was we talking about? God damn it! Here now, see, I got the short-term memory thing.
Yeah.
Yeah, I was talking Dupre, blah, what the hell? England, Austria, hell, I can't remember what I was talking about. Oh, Ole.
Yep.
No, Carlos. Carlos called me at home to come in as like a booker. But for him, being a booker meant if they want your opinion, they'll ask you for it. But they paid you extra for it. So I made a lot of money there, and you only worked like 4 days a week. So that was fun. So I was busy nightlife. We all stayed at the Tanimau Hotel. I was the last American they let stay at the Tanimau, because I always paid them up front. There always seemed to be a lot of shit happening there. Oh well, what the hell, right?
Only live once.
Yeah. But I worked for Dupre in 78, 88, 90, and the last time I was there, 97. Bad News traveled with me every day, and then Edge and Christian started there that year, because the sensational and intelligent Mass Thunderbolt, Ron, God, what's his name? But he trained Trish Stratus, and he trained a lot of girls. Huh?
Was it Ron Hutchinson?
Yeah, Ron.
Yeah.
I was just looking at the thing today, and I said, God, I forget shit. What I see now is I'll see a guy's face and can't remember his name, or I'll remember his name and I can't remember his face. And that's because I went through I was at OBW about 23 years or something like that. And I just left. I'm tired. I'm out of here. I can't take the attitudes today of guys thinking they're worth a shit and they ain't worth a fuck. When I started, I knew I wasn't worth a shit. And I knew every 5 years you'd have a little different concept on how the business is. And when everybody learned how to call it in the ring, and now none of them guys know how. That's like when we'd do promos. Hell, them guys memorize a promo now. But hell, I might have to do 12 promos for 12 markets. So Randy might say, okay, Tuesday night Texas Death Match in Louisville against Pez. Go, boom. After that, you're doing Evansville TV. Well, we're Thursday at Owensboro at the Sports Center. You got Garvin in a street fight. Okay, ready, go, boom. You just go over these markets, right? And you just blew them because you knew how to do it. You talk promos in the car. You talk angles in the car. You was always with guys older than you, and you switched around so you got a different point of view. Then you took some of the stuff you liked and some of the stuff you didn't understand. And usually everybody, what they was doing, they were great at execution, but when they were verbalizing it to you, I couldn't quite get it. But you had to learn to be good in this shit. You got to learn to fail. You got to fail at everything. You fail, and you eventually figure it out. Then you go to the next problem. You fail, and pretty soon you got all the old school ideas down, and all you got to do is do it, and it works. That's like, you know who Serena is?
Oh yeah.
Okay. Well, I trained Serena for years, and then she got a job with WWE. Then she was Performance Center, and then she quit that because she wanted to go back to wrestling again. Now she does nothing but old school wrestling, and she sticks out because nobody else. Excuse me. They know how to wrestle, but they don't know how to work. Right. They break all the rules of covering people, of doing stuff just to do it. I remember in ICW, nobody was allowed to put a shoulder up except Garvin. Everybody else did kickouts. And if you got a 2 count and you got that shoulder up one time, the whole place would come unglued. Then you didn't do it no more. But it was all different psychology. And all the guys, no matter where you went to, they understood it. It might be a little different terminology, but it's the same thing. And once you mastered that, it was simple. You could go in. I remember one week in the Maritimes, I worked an hour Broadway with a different guy, or took it past 57 and made it look like a Broadway, and didn't do that. But it gave all the baby faces confidence. You know what I mean? And everybody looked like a champion. But it's just so much fun being a heel. That's all there was. I hated being a baby face. God, I hated it.
You're right, though.
Whatever the question was. Hey, first of all, I want to plug my podcast on YouTube.
Yeah, go ahead.
My podcast on YouTube, Wrestling with Rip Rogers. Subscribe. You hear me? Subscribe. Wrestling with Rip Rogers on YouTube. And then you can listen, and then you can look at my stuff on Twitter, even though everything I put up, they put a warning on it. You know, they'll probably have a warning if they had a picture of me on here with you. Well, you haven't been convicted of anything sexual. It's just right now. It's just it's alleged, so it's okay. All mine are alleged too. So what the hell? But Hustler 2754. You can follow me on Twitter, Hustler 2754, and then you can buy my book on Amazon, Wrestling with Rip Rogers, on sale right now at Amazon. So I got all my plugs in. Before I forget, you got to be on here, and I'd forget everything.
I was going to throw that to the end, but that's all right. I was just going to ask you, I had a couple names I just wanted to bring up to you. And I was just curious just to get some insight because I knew we'd talk about a lot of different people, but we're going to probably have you back on and you could probably go forever. So I'm just going to do two today. Okay. All right. One old school and one new guy. I'll start off with the old school. Jim Ross.
The best.
Yes.
He should be running talent relations for Tony Khan because they can't get Cornette. They should have Cornette on there, and Cornette should tell him everything, what's good and what's bad. But Tony's the boss, but let him hear, let him see. Oh, right now I got a thing on EC3 they just released. We just did that last week or whatever. So that's playing on our thing. But anyway, no, Jim Ross understands the business. He knows what to do, and just hire an expert and let him be an expert.
Yeah.
You know, you wouldn't hire me as Jacksonville Jaguars football coach, would you? Of course, they had the worst record in the league last year, didn't they?
It wasn't good.
Okay. Well, I played 4 years of college football. I was a high school football coach, but I don't know nothing compared to anybody that's a coach in college or pros, right?
Absolutely.
You know, I don't even want to get into the AEW thing with the what do you call it? The guys that were sort of bosses, but they really had no business.
Oh, yeah. With Bucks and Punk and everything at the media. Got into it. Yeah.
So, you got to love AEW. A lot of guys got jobs that never should have got jobs. So that was their 15 minutes of fame there. And then they've been on for about 2 years, I think.
Yeah.
I don't think their numbers have gone up, have they?
It never gets beyond 1 million. 1 million seems to be their top, and that's where it stays right now. Yeah.
Okay. So. And then they hired so many guys, and that's what I talk about. That's why everybody's hurt. Everybody's hurt because they don't wrestle.
Right.
Word of Territory's wrestling every day. If they're a star, what are they working once a week?
Mm-hmm.
Doing TV? So in other words, you do this stupid shit, and then your body's not even in minimal bump shape. I mean, football, you practice every day, then you play the game. In every sport, you practice every day, then you play the games. You know, you're counting batting practice, fielding practice, throwing practice, walk-throughs, sit-throughs, whatever it is. But you still got to do it. You just can't sit on your ass and do nothing and expect to be any good. And that's why guys are getting hurt. It's simple. If you was a coach, you would know that.
Yeah.
Tony's not a coach. He's just a fan, which we love fans, especially ones that are paying all this money. If not, nobody would have a job, and WWE could cut everybody's money by 90%, and they'd still want to have a job because they want to be a wrestler. Who the hell don't want to be a wrestler?
Right.
To me, it was always the greatest thing in the world. Hell no, I just want to be a pro wrestler. And I didn't know how much was real, how much wasn't real. But I was ready to die for it until bad news got me. And he says, "You're going to feel me today." I said, "Come on, big man." Within 30 seconds, he had me screaming. I'm screaming to the referee, "I give up. I quit." And bad news was just laughing. And he gave the referee that bad news brown look, and he wouldn't say nothing, right? He wasn't going to ring the bell, whatever. I'm about to cry. He said, "No, you had to feel it, didn't you? You had to try me, didn't you?" I said, "Yeah, but now I know." I said, Did I get on Dave's podcast and talk about it and make fun of I said, "I'll put you over and I'll make fun of myself."
That's awesome. I want to ask you one more guy. This guy said you were the greatest trainer ever, and this guy,
I must owe him money.
No, no. First time I saw this guy, I was like, "Who the hell is this guy?" I don't know. Now, I think he's something else. He's not a full-time wrestler. I'm talking about Pat McAfee. How did that happen? And
I'll tell you,
yeah,
fucking Pat. I guess Pat got drunk one night and got him a ring from Mike Samples. And then he only lives about 6 minutes from me. And somehow he made a couple trips to OVW with me. We started hanging out some. Then I got on his podcast. And then but he wanted me to train him. And then so I said, "Okay, here's the ring." I said, "Okay." So I had about 3 guys coming in every time. And Pat he'd push himself, he'd puke in the bucket and everything. And he just loved wrestling. Yeah. And he could cut a 20-minute promo on no subject, just start talking, And he's over more than the wrestlers.
Yeah, no doubt.
And he wanted me to train him. He didn't ask for. He said, "What's this going to cost me?" I said, "Whatever you want, whatever you think it's worth." So he wrote me 1 check out. I'm sitting there looking around. Am I on candid camera? Shit. That's like working for 6 months. You know what I mean?
That's awesome.
But he never gave a shit about the money. That's like when he was chartering a plane, and losing money, but he didn't care. He was on wrestling, and then now he's doing the college game day, right?
Yep. And
when he first come into WWE, he come in and Pat had shorts on. He had the sleeves cropped out of his suit, and I think it was Michael Cole got on him about over, and I know Pat will go, "Fuck you, I'm out of here. You called me." So Vince McMahon looks at him and goes, "I think he looks great." Because Pat was rich, he didn't need it.
Right.
Now he walked off how many millions of dollars. He said, "I'm tired of kicking the football. I'm tired of punting. I'm tired of coughing corner left, coughing corner right, straight down the middle. I'm sick of it. I want to wrestle."
It's great. It's fucking great. He makes that show. Rip, you made this show.
They broke the mold on him.
Yeah.
They broke, and then, this is months. He goes, "You got a Cash App?" I said, "What the hell's a Cash App?" He tells me. Then all of a sudden he said, "Well, check it in a minute." Well, he checked it. He just sent me a bunch of money. That's him.
That's awesome. Yeah.
I mean, oh yeah, he's just. I call him patty cakes. There's only one. That's all there is to it.
That's great. Rip, there's only one you. I want to thank you for doing the show today. We got your plugs in. Is there anything else you want to plug before you go?
Any young mocha girls out there? You know how it is.
We'll hook you up. We'll talk to some other people. Rip.
Okay.
We appreciate you. Thank you so much, and we will have you back soon.
All right.